Feminism is a simple belief that men and women should have equal opportunities. Yet feminism is often misinterpreted and dismissed by many societies. I wanted to tackle this prejudice and gauge an idea of what feminism means today to the young people, the so-called Generation Z. Women make up half the world's population, yet for many, they're treated and seen as second-class citizens. Women in Britain and Malaysia have come a long way since the 1950s. However, it could be said that feminism has lost its momentum and influence since the start of the 21st century, as its initial achievements in areas such as law and the Equal Pay Act has become accepted as part of mainstream Western culture. However, to some, feminism is still a provocative. The purpose of my EPQ is to prove that post-feminist theory and its application is still a worthwhile cause, and a cause that we should still be advocating. Within this documentary, I will be looking at the 4 key issues feminists fight for today: the gender pay gap, the sexualization of women, women's reproductive rights, and the destructive stereotypes placed on women, as these are what fourth-wave feminists are advocating for today. For some, feminism is a positive movement which promotes equality.
Treated equally to men.
Equality.
Gender equality.
Whilst for others, it's a minority pressure group which has no bearing on their lives. What does feminism mean to you?
Nothing. Because I think we've got equality.
To help understand how Generation Z views feminism, I will be interviewing a range of teenagers from Britain and Malaysia. This will ultimately give an insight onto what feminism means today and how British and Malay views differ. So here are the interviewees, and they're just going to do an introduction, tell you as a viewer a bit about themselves, who they are, where they're from, and how old they are. On or off?
Hi, I'm Millie.
And I'm Stella.
We're 16 years old.
And we're going into year 12.
We're British.
Hello, it's Connor. I'm 17 years old. I am from the United Kingdom.
I'm James. I'm also 17 and I'm from Britain.
I'm Marcus. I'm from England. I'm 16.
Hi, my name is Nakita. I'm 17 and I'm from Malaysia.
Hi, my name is Maryam. I'm 19. I'm from Malaysia.
So my name is Haris and I'm from Kuala Lumpur, 19-year-old.
What does feminism mean to you?
Being equal to men.
Yeah.
Not being superior,
women
but
being
equal.
treated equally to men.
Having the same rights and not having like a gender pay gap.
Equality.
Nothing. Well, I'm sorry. I got told to be honest.
Fanatical.
Gender equality.
I mean, it's never about superiority. It's never about outshining men. It's just having like equal opportunities in like every stance.
Women's movement to ask for equal rights. So it's not like a movement to actually ask for privilege for women. What I think feminism is the strive for female to have the equal opportunity.
Can you think of any inspiring feminists?
Oh, Emma Watson. She does quite a lot of public speaking in her speeches, and I've just definitely seen her a lot on social media and stuff.
Also, there was I mean, not in like our day and age, but when the first there was like a woman, I can't really remember her name, which is bad, but she threw herself under a horse and like got killed just so that the women could have a vote, and like the suffragettes movement.
Rosa Parks.
Baroness Brady. Karen Brady.
Is that woman off The Apprentice?
Yeah.
Oh no, I like Karen Brady.
I like her. She owns a bit
I
of
thought you
West
meant
Ham.
Susanna Reid.
She's
She's a feminist.
Oh yeah.
I hate Susanna Reid.
I don't like Katie
Spies.
Hopkins.
Oh, well, over the Katie Hopkins.
I hate them.
Emma Watson. No,
Yeah,
I don't like her.
I like Emma Watson.
I don't
think
really follow Emma Watson.
I think she's probably the one that I'll choose.
Oh, you know who's a really good one? Marina Mahathir.
Yeah.
She was the daughter of the ex-prime minister. She was the daughter. She is the daughter. And like she's the head of this Islamic women's club here in Malaysia, and they're basically fighting for like liberal rights. And she's quite liberal herself.
I think one of the I wouldn't know if they are feminists or not, but one of like the inspiring women within the Malaysian circle would definitely be the daughter and the wife of Anwar Ibrahim, which is this he's an extreme against government figure. I guess one of the most inspiring instances would be when his daughter was interviewed by the CNN, and she was only like 17, and she was brave enough to uphold the values of the father, although having a whole country being against them. So I find that very inspiring.
Yeah.
One of the most inspiring feminists for me would be Emily Pankhurst. So Emily Pankhurst is a British woman who fought for the rights to vote in 1920s in the UK. I think it's an inspiring feminist because she is a working class woman who have seen oppression that happened in the country. So she feels that women should be given the rights to vote. You do not have the right to vote. Politicians will not even take your interest to account. So when she fought for rights, she went through all the challenges, she went through the police, and she even went against the government, right? So I think she is an inspiring feminist in terms of the power and the movement and the influence that she can bring.
Is feminism seen as a bad thing?
Yes, because some people think that feminists want to have dominance over men when that's not really what it's all about. And it's more common for people to think that way because of social media, because if someone says something on Twitter who you're friends with, you're just gonna not catch on with their ideas, but feel swayed to think like them. So especially with Twitter and Snapchat, as soon as someone says the word feminism, people just think of bad associations.
Not necessarily.
No, in theory, no.
No, but
in practice, yes.
Sometimes every idea has an extreme opposite. No, you can't really blame extreme feminism on feminists, really. You can't blame.
You can, though. You can only blame extreme feminism on feminists and on extreme feminists.
No, I'll just blame it on extreme feminists.
Well, then, there you go.
In feminism in this generation, the third and fourth wave feminism, I think it's quite fanatical. I think it's quite extreme at times. That's why I think you get the nickname feminazi.
I kind of agree with that, yeah. It's just I don't really generally like feminists, but as people.
They do get a bad rap in the media, in fairness to them. In theory, no.
In theory, no.
I think extremists are a bad thing. Wanting equal rights, that should be, that's how it should be, but wanting men to be slaves, because there are some actual feminists, I think that's too much.
The worst repercussion from feminism that I could think of is that some people would use feminism as a toolkit to pardon themselves from not working harder. It's very easy for you to be put in a situation where you're a female and you think that you've been working equally as hard as a male counterpart, but you don't get the same opportunities. And the thing about feminism that is most dangerous is that you might think that you are denied these opportunities because you're a female, but if you look at it from a more a clear point of view, you might know that there are some things that you are lacking from.
No. Imperatively not. It's because I think feminism is key. Feminism, I think, it's not just good. It's an integral part of human life. It's a social structure that is needed to progress the human race so they could achieve at a higher state. It's because if biasness still exists, if discrimination still exists, human beings cannot reach to their fullest potential. So feminism is not just good, it must happen regardless, even if you're a Muslim, even if you subscribe to certain culture. Feminism is what defines human beings, because human beings must be born equal. We are born all the same, and without feminism we might not even reach to the meaning of being human being itself. So I think it's a good thing.
So I first want to start off with the gender pay gap. The Equal Pay Act came into Britain in 1970 as a way to end sex discrimination in the workplace. However, as of 2017, the gender pay gap is still at 18%. It is predicted that this will not be eradicated until 2069, aka 99 years after the Equal Pay Act was first introduced. Many argue that this is due to women having children and putting their career on hold while they start a family. Returning to a previous career is often hard to do as they've been off for an extended period of time. However, not all women have a family, and of those who do, a significant number do not go beyond the allowed maternity leave, which is 90 days. So this can't be the sole reason why there is a gender pay gap. Plus, Men have families too, and they still appear to be paid more. After removing all of these biases, neither education, career prestige, and occupational success seems to protect women from the gender pay gap. The gender pay gap sends a powerful message that the work women do isn't as valuable as that of a man, even if their jobs are the same. Therefore, there should be no expectation for women to go into the same jobs as men, as there'll be less of a financial reward. This is before we even consider the notion of the glass ceiling, a metaphor for the cheap position a woman can attain. Significantly, only 30% of women own businesses, and 61% of those businesses have lower revenues than male-owned ones. And by retirement age, women will have earned on average approximately £300,000 less than their male counterparts. In Malaysia, men are being paid more than women when they hold the same job title. In 2013, men were earning up to 8.4% more than women. It is not just the low-skilled or undereducated who are a victim of this. Even female graduates in Malaysia face pay inequality. In the past, it was worse. Female teachers also face disadvantage, not just with their pay, but with their position. If a female teacher married, she would lose her status as a permanent teacher, and she would be seen as a permanent temporary staff. In 1960, the Women's Teacher Union formed to fight for female teachers' rights, and in 1964, pay equality for teachers was achieved. However, particularly in secondary teaching, men hold more senior positions and hence have a higher overall salary, and there's the glass ceiling again. What is your opinion on International Women's Day?
To be honest, I really didn't know it existed until it was on a Snapchat filter.
Well, I didn't think I'd really heard a lot about it till last year or the year before. I saw it a lot on Twitter and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like now it's getting, I don't know if it first started like ages ago, but in like the last like year to 2 years ago, it's become more like popular. But I think that's because the word like feminism has started like emerging more. It's like a more popular word,
and people are getting stronger opinions and like their own views and about it.
Yeah, so like it's always been like a view, but it's never been like, I don't know if it has, but I never noticed it as like a certain word until the last few years.
Yeah, same for me. I feel like it's definitely, I've noticed it a lot more in the past couple of years than I have before.
I don't think it's needed in our part of the world, the Western world, because I think we have equality, and actually I think at times it can shift the other way, where it goes towards women. I think especially amongst feminists. But I think if you have to have a day to celebrate women's rights, it defeats the point of women's rights, because
you want women's rights every day.
Yeah, of course. Not just one day.
By having one day that's huge. I know you have International Men's Day, but there's not a big deal made about that.
I think
so you didn't even know there was an International Men's Day.
I think
because there's not a big deal about it.
If women want to have a day that's International Women's
There's
Day,
one day
I don't
that's
really
made
care.
a huge deal about women's rights.
If they want to like celebrate being a woman or whatever, I don't really care.
But the thing is, though,
people can have days for what they want.
But if we have to celebrate, we've got women's rights.
I'm never going to celebrate it. But
that's not like, for me, equality. Because I think we've got equality, and when I don't differentiate. I don't look at somebody and go, oh well, they're a woman, so they have less rights than a man or whatever. I don't see it in that way at all. And for me, I don't think we need a day to go, oh well, we're all equal, because we've got it.
Maybe you could argue that
that's the way their religion works.
Making sure that equality, it's still everyone's equal. I don't know.
Yeah,
no, I don't really care.
Talking in terms of Britain, I don't think we need it.
Okay, here's the thing. I think that you're putting women on like the special pedestal as soon as we have a day. It's like Morgan Freeman was saying about Black History Month. Why do we need only 1 month to praise Black people? You should be praising women every day. It shouldn't be a one-day special sort of situation, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's always so important, like the significance about these special days. It's not only to commemorate what's great about them, but it's also like to remember that out of both genders, like we're the ones facing like the most challenges. And that's something that I think International Women's Day celebrates, which is, I think it's
imperative, so it becomes, because there's an international recognition for the fight for equal rights, for women to have equal opportunities as men. So I think it's key. It becomes, because when you have a Women's Day, of course at first you think that it's quite popularized, right? But I think that's the only way you want to spread out like the message, you know, for like one specific day where people are educated about the struggle, about what women had to endure in those days, you know, when they were oppressed, when they were given none of the basic rights. So Women's Day empowers women, but at the same time educates society about the struggle that happened then and the struggle that is still happening now. It's like an official stamp saying that we are all concerned.
Do you believe there's a stigma with girls wearing makeup, and if there's a perception on people who do?
Yeah, especially like men don't understand that. Like women, I feel like women do understand it because everyone like goes through the same. If you wear makeup, it's not to always impress someone. It's just so you feel good about yourself. And especially like Alicia Keys, she didn't wear makeup to the Golden Globes or something like that, and it was all in the news the next day. And I feel like it doesn't have to be in the news. That it's women's own choice to get to wear makeup. It doesn't have to be like publicised.
I think the stigma comes from social media.
Probably casual stigma.
You wear makeup not to impress people around you. You wear makeup to feel comfortable with yourself.
Yeah.
And so that you think you look good. You don't wear makeup so that you think other people make you look good. That just comes as a bonus. You wear makeup to make you feel good about yourself.
Some people wear makeup to impress people.
But but I'm not saying that, you know, that might be if there is a certain person you're trying to impress. But generally, women wear it so they feel good about themselves, not so they can go out. You know, when I see a woman in the street wearing makeup, I don't look at her and go, "Oh, she's trying to impress me."
Yeah, I know. But I think definitely in our generation, I think if you don't wear makeup, if a woman doesn't wear makeup, people don't really care. Like in school, there's people that don't wear makeup because they can't be bothered through the day, but they'll wear it to go on a night out. But either way, I don't really care. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I like it when a girl wears makeup. If it makes them look better, I'm not bothered really.
I honestly think that it's died down. It's not as big of a deal as it was before.
The prevalence of like social media and stuff like that is normalizing girls being girly. I mean, like, I guess the propagation of images of girls being airbrushed and wearing makeup, it makes everyone want to wear makeup. So, in effect, the society that we live in right now, wearing makeup and wearing like really, really nice clothes that accentuates your feminism is something that's normal.
I think in modern day, especially among teenagers, we feel that women who overly make up themselves as trying to attract attention, I think that is one of the most heinous and one of the most contagiously bad possession of women, because women wear makeup not to attract men because they want to feel good. Guys, I think, sometimes are so self-absorbed that they think that women make up for them. That is a very archaic and misogynistic view, because women make up because they want to be proud of themselves. They want to own it, you know, they want to feel good.
Do you believe that women are sexualised for the clothes they wear?
Yeah, because when Little Mix went on X Factor, they wore like really high waist stuff and like really like short pants.
That
like
was
hot
like
pants.
uproar about that when they signed
because it was a family TV show and they shouldn't wear things like that, and people were like looking at them differently than what they looked at them before, and I feel like that's not how people should perceive people like that. Or like when some of my friends go to parties, they'll like put on a different jumper to leave the house in than they would put on at the party because of like people in the streets or stuff like that like shouting at them. So like if they wear like, because there's like see-through tops that people can wear, quite like visible to see things underneath.
You feel like you have to cover yourself, like you shouldn't wear that out to go, but then when you get there it's acceptable. But yeah,
women are always like being slut shamed for like things they do or things they'll wear or how they treat people or how they treat their kids, stuff like that. Especially like newspapers and like tabloids are like quick to say things about slut shaming, but you never really see things like that about the men.
Yes, but so are men. I think that's of the way the male brain works.
No, that's women as well.
That's natural, you can't help it.
Women are bitches, they do that as well.
Men say it.
I think women would take that, women would take, like, would comment on it rather than men, I think.
Yes.
Well, like, bitch you, like,
People
in a
that aren't
bitchy
even,
way.
people
Yeah.
that aren't even your friends, just like
But I think that you do see a lot of half-naked women on Instagram, which are sexualized.
Yeah.
But then for that, you also always see like pictures of Ronaldo in his kegs or something.
Yeah,
And then, you know,
That's
I'm sure there's
sexualised
women
as well.
sat at home going, I'd have a bit of that the same way we do about half-naked women.
I think it's just the way the mind works, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, within the Malaysian context, especially for someone like who wears the hijab, sometimes we ourselves are being sexualized. Like, let's say when we accidentally show like some skin that we're not supposed to show because we wear a hijab. Like a lot of guys were like, oh, I wonder what it looks like underneath and stuff like that. So it's kind of it's especially scary in Malaysia. The one thing that kind of like makes it worse, it's probably because how certain people here aren't really accustomed to like seeing girls with a raw skin.
Yeah.
So once they actually see them, I guess it's pretty enticing. It forces them to, I guess, sexualize. Yeah.
Literally just walking down the street, at least 5 guys will scream at you. We will get sexualized. It's the truth.
Yeah, and one thing that it's important to like point out is that how do I say it? In Malaysia, there's this perception that girls wear clothes, girls wearing nice things to please men. So it kind of, which makes it okay for them to admire us sexually. But in truth, that's not the case, right? There is no such thing as going out and wearing makeup and wearing like nice clothes to like please the other gender. So that's the kind of like thinking that if I had the power to abolish that, like I would.
Oh, yes, exactly. As I'm not saying it's what I think it's true, but I'm thinking what the general public, especially in this country, is because I think we need to go back to the very culture of this country, right? It's because we more often than not, our grandparents teach us to know to cover up and to like be modest, especially if you're female. So once you become like younger and you want to explore yourself, and you tend to wear like quite revealing clothes, and people often sexualize it, I think it's very unfair. It's because like it's not, I mean like you feeling sexual towards that girl because she's wearing revealing, it's your fault because you cannot control your lust. It's not her fault, right? But society often attack the girl itself, saying that why are you wearing this type of clothes, since like it's your fault because you're thinking bad stuff, right? Therefore, women are unfairly objectified and also sexualized with what they wear. These things need to change is because we need to have more liberal and more progressive education, not just at school but at home too. And the sexualization of clothes is becoming more rampant. It's because of the rise of Islam and this rise of extreme, like women need to be confined at home. So as long as the sexual symbol is applied and is often portrayed in a form of a woman, sexualization of clothes will always exist.
Moving on to the sexualisation of women in the media specifically. The media is the worst culprit of the sexualisation of women. Simply searching the sexualisation of women leads us to a bombardment of images of women being objectified in adverts, films and magazines. Companies often use images of semi-naked women to draw consumers in. Society has programmed men to desire this kind of woman. This woman is the standard many see all women should aspire to. Likewise, women are being told that they must look like this perfect, airbrushed and objectified woman. But there's a problem. That woman doesn't exist. The models have spent hours in hair and beauty, had days of retouching, and editors Photoshop the results. It's an unrealistic view of women, and one that is incredibly damaging to many, many girls out there. This image of the flawless woman surrounds us both in the East and the West, developed and developing nations every single day. We see her when we open our phones, watch TV, shop online, in film trailers and on billboards, in swimsuits and in hijabs. It's inevitable that seeing this image every day leads women down a path of self-destruction, from eating disorders to depression. Women's self-esteem is greatly affected. This perfect image of woman, created to sell, is an industry obsessed with perfection. An industry worth billions, which sells products to women that will claim will help them achieve the impossible goals they have set. This was highlighted in a campaign called Women Are Not Objects in 2016, and it went viral, and rightly so. It's incredibly important as it reflects exactly how the media portrays women today.
I love giving blowjobs to sandwiches.
I love sacrificing my dignity for a drink.
I love sleeping with guys that don't know my name.
I hope when my daughter grows up that she has friends just like these.
I'd sell my body for a burger. What goes great with this dish? My butt.
Obviously, my cleavage can sell anything.
When I reach into my designer handbag, you know I'm naked.
Peekaboo. Like what you see?
What do you think of Meninist accounts?
But it just takes away the point that feminists trying to get past, because some people think that feminism means to like have dominance over males, when it's really not. It's just to have equality, because women have always been seen as the less superior sex to men, and they don't really take us seriously.
I've never even heard of Meninist.
I've heard it used jokingly.
Feminists, basically.
I've heard it used jokingly, but I didn't know it was taken seriously.
Oh, well, yeah, I'd never. It's just a bit of banter.
Every action has an equal opposite reaction.
I mean, I think they're just joking.
It implies that they want us to like remain at an inferior stage, which is kind of saddening, I guess.
I think the movement to empower men is an equal right too, but the thing is there isn't an issue of men being, stigmatized. Sometimes you need to look which one is a cause for a bigger concern. So Meninist is fine, but like when Meninists mock feminism, that is when it becomes contagious. When a Meninist movement, make fun of rape, make fun of sexual harassment, that is when it comes back. When it empowers the more vulgar, the more violent side of society.
Do you believe that social media shapes people's opinions on the topic of feminism?
Yeah. Especially if like one of your friends put something on, you'd be like, you think of it like that.
And I think a lot of people are more willing to just open up about their own opinions, and sometimes to say stuff that, like, I don't know, say stuff they don't always like really mean to get like reactions out of people and stuff. And on social media it can get like twisted and
But I think it's also a good thing, because without social media I think it would be quite an underground topic. Because I mean, history, there are like waves of feminism, but I think now it's just popularized and people just have it as a label, but it's a good label.
Yeah, I agree with Nakita, like 100%.
Yes, exactly. It's because I think we are living in an age where media generally has influenced people, because it's a tool of trying to send your ideas. People sometimes who are, who are not politically aware, so they use social media as their first source, right? So the thing about social media, because it's unfiltered. So sometimes social media is good when you're trying to, aware about the good stuff, but sometimes it brings the bad sides. It's because it's sometimes unfiltered news, such as alt-right news, can influence people to think otherwise, especially like those who are on the fence, who don't actually have an opinion on feminism. So there needs to be a check on the use of social media.
Do you believe stereotypes of women still exist?
I think definitely still exists.
There's a lot of like women don't work. If children like go, oh, what does your mum do? Like, she'll just stay at home and like cook and clean. And it's like stereotyping like women to always like stay in the kitchen, like feed the children, like look after it, like just be a good like
be good
houseworker.
And
work at
and
they don't really like have a, I don't know, but like they have more of a voice than they have like in the past.
This goes on to the.
Or do you think they're still there?
Yeah.
About the generation thing. This is just something that I think that'll get phased out through generations.
In a way, I don't, because I don't want that to happen, because I'm.
All right, okay.
Because not that I want to like keep women in the kitchen or whatever. I just want. I think women are different than men, so you know, you can have different jobs.
But if I talk, like when I'm listening to my granddad speak, he's sexist. But like he's sexist just straight to my grandma's face, and she just accepts it because that's the way they've been brought up.
Yeah, of course.
You know, they've been brought up that man goes to work 9 to 5, brings home money, mother cooks.
My granddad, when he comes to like the house and we'll have like a buffet or something, like my grandma just gets the food like from the buffet, and he just sits down.
Yeah. But then I think our generation has been raised that it's okay for men to stay at home and be a stay-at-home dad, the same way that it's okay for a woman to go out and be the main household provider 9 to 5.
It's different.
And so by the time our generation gets to be, you know, the old ones, we would have passed that down to our kids.
Yeah, but I think you've got to have like
I think it'll eventually just get phased out.
You do want equality, but you've got to remember that women and men are different, a lot different. So we can have different jobs.
Yeah, but we're both capable.
And
you know, you can't tell me that
if you've got a woman and a man for the same job and stuff, and I'm happy for paying the women more, the men more, because if they do it better, do it different.
If you do a better job, pay them
do it different. If they're worth.
But you've also got to acknowledge
and that might be the
men
man
aren't capable of staying at home and cleaning and cooking.
That might be the man.
The same way a woman's capable of running
you look
a
at like the salary gap. There's always. I would like to think there's always going to be a gap, because I want people. I don't really care about if there's a gap or not. I just want people to get paid for what they should be getting paid for.
Yeah, for sure. For me, it's not stereotypical housewife, but for me is Islam. So like my Malay family, they like expect me to not go to university, and they expect me to like hijab and stuff. But I don't, so they don't talk to me.
Malaysia, the stereotypes against women being weak, where certain jobs are only applicable to men, exist, because I think the culture itself, because even women here acknowledge that sometimes men can do better jobs. But stereotypes exist, one, because of culture, because we have this prominent culture where women should sit at home, women should take care of family, while men should go out and work. Because second, religion plays a role, because in this country, religious organizations such as Hakim, Isma is quite strong. But the thing is, the stereotypes becomes worse when they are reaffirmed by powerful politicians. When in this country we have a huge religious party called PAS, which consists a lot of female MPs, but at the same time they defend this misogynistic values. And when it comes from a representative of a country, or a representative of a people, it just shows these deep embedded stereotypes that exist.
I'm going to talk about the destructive stereotypes placed on women. The objectification of women doesn't just happen in Britain, it happens across the world. It's a universal epidemic. Adverts often gender stereotype, portraying women as always in the kitchen and men failing at simple household tasks. This portrayal is extremely harmful to both young boys and girls, as it sets a limit to what they can achieve. The Advertising Standard Authority is cracking down on these stereotypical gender roles and is banning these harmful adverts. Here are just some examples.
From their very first days, your baby starts to write their future. And milks contain our unique blend of ingredients.
Oven fried, so easy. A man can do it.
Yorkie, 5 big masculine chunks of chocolate. It's not for girls.
Rehearsing with the girls before writing down my innermost thoughts. That's nothing compared to Captain Autumn's day. Where I'll uncover enemy secrets.
This change will hopefully give rise to adverts which are empowering rather than degrading. However, this hasn't been welcomed by all. Many believe that the left are imposing their agenda on society, and the UK is becoming too PC and too sensitive to stereotypes.
I think the whole thing is a load of rubbish, to be quite honest. Talking about benign gender stereotypes, they're an exaggerated truth.
This is just an organisation who's trying to put the left-wing agenda onto the free market, and it has no place there.
However, adverts which are degrading to both men and women are just not acceptable. Over the past few years, sports adverts have flourished, from Nike to Always, as has the This Girl Can campaign, which is full of body positivity and encouraging girls to get back into sport. All have positive messages behind them that girls can do anything.
I'm knackered.
Bizi bilirsiniz. Güzeliz biz. Ellerimiz de böyle ince ve narindir. Ha, bu arada söylemiş miydim? Altını çok severiz. Yakışır da.
Women are often criticised for how they behave, being labelled a bitch, slut, gossip, manipulative, catty, bossy, if they do anything outside the socially accepted norm. These words have become loaded insults which are constantly fired at women in attempt to demean them. Significantly, they have no direct male synonym, and the same qualities in a man are often seen as positive. What's more, Western culture dictates that if a man enjoys sex, he's a legend or a player, but if a woman does the same, she's labelled a slut or a whore. These misogynistic comments batter a woman's self-confidence and give the idea that women can't be sexual beings and their sexuality is dictated by others, and this just isn't right. Do you think women are represented in the media, politics and business?
Now more than before, especially with like Theresa May. She was like the first female Prime Minister since Margaret Thatcher. So she's the first one since then, which is like helping the perception that women can't do the role as well as men.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think if you look at the most powerful four people in this country are Her Majesty the Queen, a woman, obviously, the Prime Minister, a woman, the head of the Metropolitan Police, a woman, and Nicola Sturgeon, First Minister, obviously a woman.
Hillary Clinton, almost president. Theresa May, Prime Minister.
Yeah, Angela Merkel.
Angela Merkel, Chancellor of Germany or whatever it's called. What was she called? Maggie Thatcher. Although she wasn't the most popular up here, still got Prime Minister.
Best Prime Minister, second best Prime Minister we've ever had.
In no way I would say they're like properly presented. I would agree and I would disagree. It depends on like how well off that individual is like initially. Like a lot of like really prominent female leaders in Malaysia come from very like affluent families. For instance, Zedia's and like Marina Mahathir. Like a lot of them come from very established families, so the respect that they gain like in their professional lives, it was kind of inherent from birth. It's a bigger struggle for individual females to climb up the professional ladder.
But I think in terms of society, there's still this stigma that women should be housewives. Because I know in my old school, I went to a private international school, which is so expensive. And there were some really, really smart girls, and they told me that as soon as they find a husband and they have children, they're just going to stop working. And they're going to stop everything. That's the truth. And this is like 2016. And they were like, yeah, I'm going to stop everything to take care of my kids. And also, in Malaysian, like, TV dramas, the woman is always represented as either the really sad, desperate one who's looking for the man, or the crazy one who's controlling the man.
Yeah.
The stereotypes of them.
I think increasingly in Western liberal democracies such as in Germany, I think it does. But I think in Malaysia, we still haven't had a woman leader as one of the major political parties. We do have one, but she is, because once a woman becomes a leader of a political party, but he or she doesn't bring forward the idea of feminism and equal rights, and I think that's just like a shame. For example, give it Margaret Thatcher in the UK, despite being a prime minister, she never fought for equal rights. She never even had a woman as one of her members of her cabinet. So there's a difference between representation and the effectiveness of the representation itself. Like here, we do still have women MPs, but they often sing the same song as male MPs too. So representation is there, but I think how they make use of the representation is imperative. So you can have like hundreds of women MPs, but if none of them fight or defend for clear discrimination that happened against women, there is no effect.
Do you believe that extreme political parties are a threat to feminism?
I think it's like taking a step backwards instead of taking a step forwards.
Yeah, I think you're entitled to your own opinion.
I think feminism's a threat to them.
I think more people agree with feminism than agree with them.
Yeah, like, that was the main, that was the first idea. Well, not the first, but that was the original idea, and feminism's coming in to get that. So I think feminism's a threat to them right-wing groups.
I mean, I think in this country, and even the Conservative Party, obviously, it is conservatism. It's not socially conservative.
Like, Kelantan.
Oh, yeah.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, they're trying really, really hard to make it very, very conservative.
Yeah.
So the danger is there, but how far they'll get is questionable.
Yeah, I think the society that is most jeopardized with the prevalence of these extremist parties are definitely the LGBT society, which is more. It impacts them more than it impacts like females, because their objective is, as long as we adhere to certain principles, like within, let's say, if we have a really if it's an Islamic extremist, as long as they adhere to principles of Islam, I mean, you're considered okay, like, by their books.
Yeah.
And the context of Islam doesn't really limit the representation of women. They just limit like the things that we wear outside and stuff like that. But in terms of like being vocal, and in terms of being yourself, that is not limited.
Yes, I think extremist party are a threat. So example, in the UK, you can talk about the Democratic Unionist Party when they refuse abortion. So abortion is part of a feminist issue because you're talking about women having their own right, the conscious choice to whether or not to have a child or not. And when they actively, condemn the action and disregard any form of argument, extremist parties will feel, we might brush it off of being radical, but you cannot measure the amount of influence, because there's a lot of people outside there who are quiet, who has no views, and when they are swayed by these extremist parties, they tend to become more vulgar. So extremist party, it weeds out, it brings us back to the violence and the extremist views, those views that we held 50 or 60 years ago. So extremist party is a threat. For example, we can talk about in this country, where back in the 1990s, women are quite liberated, right? But when there's a rise of an extremist religious party such as us, you can see that they are trying to demean feminism and to a certain extent calling feminism as an act against God. They immediately disregard anything, so it's harmful.
So next I'm going to talk about reproductive rights. In Britain, women have been able to access the pill since 1961 and free of charge through the NHS. Being able to access the pill changed women's attitudes to sex as it gave them freedom and significantly control. For the first time, women could take charge of their sexuality and not face the fear of an unwanted pregnancy. At a stroke, the feminist movement had been handed its first major strike in overcoming biological differences between men and women. However, birth control comes with major side effects, such as acne, weight gain, depression, severe mood swings, just to name a few. Many women just aren't comfortable with the idea of taking a pill pumped with hormones to control their cycle. There is still the expectation that women should be in charge of birth control. Men aren't faced with the same burden or responsibility. However, in the past year, there has been research into a male version of the birth control pill, and it has been proven to be 96% effective. Sadly, funding was pulled after first-time users suffered some side effects, such as, wait for it, acne, mood swings, depression, and weight gain. So there, quite abruptly, the revolution ends. Men were facing exactly what women have faced for the past 50 years, and nothing is being done to try and improve the female contraceptive pill, even though in the UK, over 3 million people take it every single day. In 1967, abortion was legalised through the campaigning of 21-year-old Liberal MP David Steele. It was also sparked by the thalidomide disaster in the 1960s. A pill was introduced to cure morning sickness, and many mothers took this pill. However, when they gave birth, their children were born with severe deformities. This tragic event changed people's opinion on abortion. Before this, many women had to turn to illegal backstreet abortions, and only the rich could afford a safe abortion. Single mothers who carried through with the pregnancy were often looked down upon, and they carried a stigma. Mothers were often passed off as sisters, and unwanted babies often just disappeared. When the Act was passed, all women, regardless of class, were able to access a safe abortion and were finally in control of their reproductive rights. The number of registered abortions increased from 4 out of 100 births in 1968 to 18 out of 100 births in 1975. However, it is still clear that there is a stigma attached to single mothers, and this has remained in the UK over the past decade. This was highlighted during the 2011 riots, when the then Prime Minister David Cameron stated the rioters acted out. They come from one of those neighbourhoods where it's standard for children to grow up with just a mum and not a dad, where it's more normal for young people to grow up without a male role model.
I don't doubt that many of the rioters out last week had no dad at home. Perhaps they come from one of the neighbourhoods where it's standard for children to have a mum and not a dad, where it's normal for young men to grow up without that male role model, looking to the streets for their father figures, filled up with rage and anger.
There is no denying that abortion gives an option to young people. It gives them a choice. 1 in 25 teenagers will fall pregnant in the UK each year. And in 2001, 50% of these teens were single. Many of these teen pregnancies involve the weak, the vulnerable, and the oppressed of society. If we learn nothing from how teens across Britain are trafficked for sex, then we must accept that at least abortion, or access to it, gives an opportunity from those abused to separate themselves from unwanted legacies. However, in Northern Ireland, abortion is still illegal, and thousands of Irish girls each year fly out to England, Scotland and Wales to seek a private termination. And on average, this costs £1,400. In 2017, it was decided that the Northern Irish women could no longer seek out an abortion on the NHS, even though Northern Ireland is part of the UK. The outrageous cost obviously deters women, especially of those who come from low-income backgrounds, as does the journey to the mainland, often alone and in secret because of the latent shame imposed by communities.
Keep your rosaries off our ovaries! Keep your rosaries off our ovaries! Pro-life, that's a lie! You don't care if women die! Right to decide! Our bodies, our lives, our right to decide!
British schools have the obligation to teach sex education. However, in Catholic schools, they can simply skirt over the details. This means that many men and women come out of education not knowing the full risks that sex can bring. Alternatively, sex can be taught in a sinister and conservative way, meaning many young people just aren't told of all their options. In Malaysia, sex education isn't part of the curriculum at all. This lack of knowledge means that Malaysia has one of the highest rates of teen pregnancies in Southeast Asia. There are on average 50 teen pregnancies every day. Out of that number, 30% of teens are unmarried. And out of that number, there were 18,652 teen pregnancies recorded. In 2016, this figure dropped to 12,000. But with this number of pregnancies and the latent shame imposed by the community, there were 90 cases of baby abandonments from 2008 to 2013. There is also a strong sense that abortion is the last resort. Many Muslims regard abortion as wrong and haram. Furthermore, if the mother is unable to provide for their child, this is not a valid excuse. It is believed that they should place their trust in God. This is controversial as many just simply can't provide and have to rely on male members of their household, i.e. those most often in paid employment, and again reinforcing gender stereotypes. That under certain circumstances, abortion should be permitted if it's within 120 days of a pregnancy. However, it's only if the mother's life is at risk, and it is often thought of as the lesser of two evils. Do you believe there are equal opportunities for both men and women?
More now than there was. In school, they have girls, engineering and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's more opportunities for engineering for women.
Posters all trying to encourage girls to go in for this
science
and
maths, STEM subject, science, technology, engineering and mathematics.
And it's aimed at girls aged 14 to 16.
Yeah. Well,
in this country, yeah.
I believe there's ever increasing equal opportunities. I don't think this country is very good. I think we're not there yet, but we're very close.
I think we are.
But you look at the fact that a female cricket team, England's female cricket team, just sold out Lords for the final.
Yeah.
You know, 10 years ago, would you have ever heard of the Women's Cricket World Cup? No. But now they're selling out stadiums. I feel that their opportunities in sort of, the workplace and business world are expanding. I don't feel we're quite at equal yet, but it's happening.
Maybe we're not equal because that is a different generation to ours.
Yeah, it's another one.
Saying that, but it's quite.
It's another one of those things that will just get phased out generation by generation.
There's some things that will always be. Where men can only do that job. For example, if you want to go in the Royal Marines, only men can apply. But when it comes to the armed forces, for example, actually,
they can do a job. I believe they can do a good job, but there are jobs like that where they're very physical jobs, and you can't deny that on average men are a lot stronger than women.
Well, that's proven by science.
Well, no, you can't argue that, and I don't care what anyone says. Men are stronger than women generally.
In Malaysia, I think it's alright. Yeah, I think it's alright. Yeah, it could be worse.
Yeah, it could be worse. Yeah, honestly, it's for an Islamic country, it's actually very good.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as equal opportunities that exist, because we need to accept the fact that there is a movement towards it, and there has been improvement in schools. There have been improvement in more Western-based or more progressive schools, but the majority of schools, majority of workplaces, especially in government and in rural areas, this thing still exists. In my experience itself, in my school, the female can't be the leader of the school. We cannot. It's in the rule, it's in the bylaws of the school. So if things like this, even small things like this exist, equality of opportunity will never be achieved. And I'm not saying that is achieving now, but I'm saying that if you compare it to the past 50 years, I think we have improved a lot, but we are a long way to go from achieving equality of opportunity.
Is feminism needed?
Not in this country.
I believe
not in this
equalism is needed.
Not in this generation. No, not this country. I think it is in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, not needed in this country.
Middle East countries,
Asian,
maybe African,
East Asian countries,
Asia, South America,
Asia.
All non-Western countries.
Yeah.
Not to be controversial, but I think the West is getting very close to equal rights.
China, maybe, that's all.
I think I don't think we really need feminism in our generation anyway. I think the millennial generation, I think, is very equal, and we have equal opportunity. Britain,
no. We're nice people.
I think Britain's
will respect women.
Yeah.
I don't think we need a massive
movement here.
Massive movement,
yeah. I think we've got it.
Yeah, I think so. I think the awareness still needs to be there.
Yeah, the awareness still needs to be there.
That's true. I think it's less to do with in a professional kind of situation, but I think it's more stereotypes and social kind of stuff.
The idea of feminism might not penetrate certain mindsets. I mean, let's say if you've already grown accustomed of an ideal female being a housewife and someone who is like a provider in the household, it's very, very hard for you to kind of like overcome that role and replace it with an idea that's foreign. So yeah, so that's probably the biggest obstacle in Malaysia. Like for someone who's well educated and for someone who has experienced different cultures, it's easy for them to understand the pertinence of feminism. But for someone who, you know, like who didn't really grow up in a good background, like in a good background, this idea could kind of, it could go against certain values that they hold really dear to. So I guess it's going to take time for feminism to really spread and to really take into effect. Yeah. As in Malaysia.
You cannot choose whether you're born male or female. So if you're born a female and you don't fight for your rights, means that you are born at a disadvantaged part, you know. And the fact that in a lot of areas in this country, especially in rural places, where women have never heard about this idea of feminism, who objectively believe that they are weak. As long as people like this exist, as long as this act of discrimination still exists, feminism is one of the most, and I would say most inspiring movement that has occurred and is still needed in this country and also in all other countries around the globe.
Are you a feminist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I'm an equalist.
What's your definition of feminism, please?
That men and women should have equal opportunities and rights.
Well, I think I'm a feminist for the first, second, and I suppose a little bit of third wave feminism. But I think when it comes to the third and fourth wave, I think that's when you actually see a lot of fanatical feminism, really quite extreme feminism.
Where people started going OTT, feminazi level.
Yeah, and start attacking men actually.
Yeah.
And that's why I would say I'm not a feminist.
That's why I say I'm not a feminist, I'm an equalist.
But I completely believe in women's rights, but I'm not a feminist because I think feminism has turned into a different definition. I agree with the first ever definition what you said, absolutely 100%, but it's changed in my opinion.
I kind of agree with that, yeah.
Yes, I'm a feminist.
In conclusion, Western feminism is perhaps a movement which is seen to be run by white middle-class women, but it is a positive movement that is fighting for equal rights, and the opportunities which it has created for both men and women should not be brushed aside or dismissed because of the colour and the background of the activists. In some societies, people view feminists as someone who is a sandal-wearing lesbian who hates men. However, feminists come in all shapes and sizes. You can be a feminist if you're a man or a woman, if you're young or old, if you're white, Asian, Hispanic or black. It doesn't matter. If you believe in the equality of the sexes, you are a feminist.
We should all be feminists.
Feminist.
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 Feminist. Feminist.
Feminist.
The person who believes in the social, political and economic equality of the sexes.
A feminist is a man or a woman who says,
yes, there is a problem with gender as it is today.
And we must fix it.
And from this research, it's clear that feminism is about choice. The British are lucky in a sense that they have legislation in place to tackle sexism, but the battle is ongoing and the problems facing women here is very different to that of Malaysia. It is clear that Marcus, Connor and James brush aside the idea of feminism. As they benefit from the patriarchy, perhaps it's difficult for them to empathise, as they don't see the problems that face women on a daily basis. They are adamant that Britain has achieved equality and that feminism is no longer needed. Emily and Stella are aware that feminism is a positive movement. However, they view themselves as passive feminists rather than active. This is because they live in a country which exercises equality through the rule of law. The issues facing women in Britain are minute compared to many other countries and cultures. Therefore, the campaign doesn't seem as essential to young people in today's society. But it is clear that Emily and Stella have benefited from those who came before them, from the suffragettes to David Steele, Jermaine Greer, to the many unsung heroes and heroines of the past, and I dare say it, the future. Feminism today is more about breaking unconscious sexism and reforming dated legislation than ensuring every girl has the right to vote and education, because that has already been achieved in British society. This is very different to the Malaysians' view. It is extremely clear that Malaysians are aware of, or their lack of, rights, and they are determined to lobby for equality, even if this means going against their religion. However, religion is an incredible influence in many of their lives, whilst feminism appears to be going against their tradition and culture. Therefore, further legislation is still needed to promote equality. Like Harris said, the representation is in place, but it's just not effective. This highlights that feminism isn't an active issue in Malaysian society, but it should be. It's integral that Malaysians fight for equality if they want to be regarded as a developed nation by 2021. Harris is so passionate about feminism, and he is aware of the benefit that it brings to society. He rightly says that sexism is the most ignorant attitude that anyone could possess. His focus is that attitudes must change and that Islam must progress forward, and Nakita and Maryam reflect this opinion. As Malaysian females, they know firsthand the sexism occurring in their country, and they are willing to go against their beliefs and culture to campaign for equal rights. Feminism is an ongoing battle, and hopefully we will be equal in the near future. But for now, we're still fighting until every single man and woman across the world has equal rights and opportunities. After all, if you don't fight for all, you fight for no one.